Yo, what is going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 172. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
There we go. Sup, people?
I like that you like dropping the beat. You know, Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Carlos Romero.
What is up?
Brian Manjoma.
Some deep conversations right there, people.
You know, and Brett Murdoch.
Hey, everybody.
All right, I got to do a little bit of fluff here. Apologies for the backwards camera because Google Hangouts. I just found out the Google Hangouts toolbox is not working for anybody, so I can't mirror the image, and I also can't mirror the image on my own camera for some odd reason. Even though the option is there, it's just grayed out. You know,
Odd.
But anyway, while I do that, Manny, what's going on with Throwdown right now? We have something very special going on.
Yo! What we got is one of the coolest things we've gotten in a while. Big thanks to Square Enix for sending us over a copy of Dissidia, which is the special edition of Dissidia, which you guys can get, especially on this show, which we will be doing a really cool drawing. But there's one catch to this. You have to actually subscribe to our subscribe to Throwdown on Twitch, YouTube, and our Twitter.
Yes.
And leave a comment in the video, which Tony introduces it and talks about it a little bit. Now, the thing is, Tony did not unbox it, so when you get this thing, you will get it fresh out of the shop. It'll have that new special edition smell.
Yeah, pretty much, you know. So yeah, we're giving away Dissidia Final Fantasy NT Ultimate Collector's Edition to a lucky winner, and all you have to do is just tell us in the comment section of the video that I dropped the other day what is your favorite Final Fantasy game, and obviously subscribe to Throwdown on right here on YouTube, over on our Twitch, and over on Twitter, man. And we're gonna pick somebody at random on Thursday night, man, during the live recording of Throwdown. Episode 173. We're getting closer to 175. It kind of sucks we weren't able to sync them up together, but it's all right. We like those anniversary episods. They're always a lot of fun.
So it's definitely cool that Square Enix sent us that. I mean, I unfortunately I didn't really get to play a full version of it. I got to play a demo at E3, and it seemed cool. I was a fan of the first few Dissidia games on the good old PSP.
PSP.
It's nice to actually have it on a big boy console.
Yeah.
Just saying.
That's funny. All right, let me get my show notes here, and then we could start. We got a lot of questions, which is cool. It also kind of affirms my theory that you have to kind of lead people. Like, every time I notice when I say in the actual comment section, leave a question next week, we get more questions. Even though I'm like, you guys should know this by now. But
you know what it is. It's kind of like having the sign, having a signpost and having like a big flashing sign there for waiting for you.
Yeah.
What was it? Well, I think Brett put that up, said something about that a while ago, where it was like that this one tunnel kept getting into car crashes because of this one sign that nobody ever saw. Then finally, when they put a big flashing thing and all kinds of other crazy shit all over, then they started to notice it.
Isn't it kind of like keeping food in the cupboard? It's like you keep it in there, nobody eats it, you put it out, then people start eating it.
Oh yeah, it's you know what it is? It's like kind of an out of sight, out of mind sort of thing. I mean, a lot of times, I mean, especially when you have it inside of the thing, people don't, sometimes people aren't exactly looking at before they start to click the show, they probably look at the show notes, really quickly to kind of jot through what's in there. And then, it's just good to have it kind of like right there where people can see it. And even mentioning it multiple times would also probably help too. So
yeah. So again, as always, if you're watching us after we finish recording, leave us the questions in the comment section over on Coalition and here on YouTube. We'll answer them in the next week's show. If you're watching live, leave us a couple of questions, although we're probably not going to take too many because we got a lot to go through this week. So without further ado, let's get into it. So G Megaforce123 starts us off with a very interesting question. All right, he goes, do you get / understand the lore and story in most games you've played? I find that the story in some games like Dead Space, Skyrim, Portal 2, Hitman 2016, Divinity, Original Sin, amnesia is very hard to follow while playing. I knew what I was supposed to do in a quest, but I struggled to understand why I have to do this and that. I always end up reading Wikipedia to understand the story. With that said, I was able to grab most of the story in Evil Within 2, Resident Evil 7, Red Dead Redemption, Persona 5, Uncharted 4, etc. Am I really that bad when it comes to video games as lore?
I mean, it depends on the different thing. Like I don't play much of the Hitman games, like, and so I don't exactly know too much about it. I just kind of always saw it as a game where it's like, okay, this guy belongs to a secret coalition of hitmen that they send out to to silence people, and at some point he goes rogue. I mean, that's at least what I got out of that. But yeah. I definitely think I'm pretty good at knowing the lore of it. Like the Dead Space lore is actually pretty damn crazy. Especially when, like, I feel like 2 got really into that unitology crazy shit. Yeah, you know what I mean? Where like you going into the church and you find out how their church was constructed off of these crazy ideas, and how it connects to all the necromorphs and all that other crazy stuff.
Yeah, I wish he was here so I could ask him this question. Do you have a hard time following the plot and story in movies? Because unless the game is purposely confusing and stuff, or they just didn't think it through, I don't really have a hard time following stories. It's pretty easy. It's just like following a movie story, you know?
I feel like Tony.
Yeah.
What's the story of Bloodborne?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Purposely confusing. That is purposely confusing.
Well, I mean, here's the thing about Bloodborne. It's like Bloodborne is built, and most of the From Software games are built. You don't actually really need to know the story in order to kind of enjoy the game. If you want to go deeper and understand a little bit more, you can go and start reading all the different lore and all the weapons and items in the game. It's not those games are not served. The story is not served to you on the surface like a lot of other games are. Where as in an Uncharted game, the story that's happening is the one that you're seeing. In Bloodborne, if you just kind of like a little bit like real life, if you were to walk into some crazy place, you don't automatically know what the fuck is going on. You don't know what these cinematic, like not cinematics, but like the things that are happening around you are. But if you decide to dig a little bit deeper, then you know what's going on around you, which is an interesting way of kind of storytelling. You could just be just the kind of character person that just does what they're told, like, oh, well, kill this thing, and then you'll get the thing that you want. Or you could literally find out why they want you killing these things, and you end up being a little bit more, maybe enlightened.
That's what I love about BioShock.
Yeah, BioShock 2 is BioShock as well. The surface story is, the whole, Ryan and what's his face, battle. But then you find out if you do a little bit more, digging into it, and with all the little audio logs and all that other stuff, you find out, oh, it's a lot more screwed up than you thought it was.
It depends on the game for me. Like, if you ask me, do I follow Metal Gear stories? I'm like, hell no. I don't get half of the shit that's going on like when I play the games.
For Metal Gear, they're very dependent on a lot of the other games. Yeah. Granted, I would say the best 2 Metal Gears in the series are 1 and 3, because those 2 are the most self-contained stories. You get into 2, that one's a little kind of off the rails. You get into 4, you will be lost if you don't.
because that was the connecting point.
That's the connecting point.
There,
yeah. And even I would say even 5 to an extent is very self-contained. You don't actually need to know much about the previous games, but you will be fulfilled if you did know those things.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the game. There's some that the story's pretty minimal and kind of dumb, and it's like there's not much to get.
You want to talk about confusing stories? Talk about the friggin' Kingdom Hearts series stories. Those things are fucking nuts.
Oh shit!
Like I remember, I'm like thinking of like playing through the game. I'm like, wait, okay, this is a teen-rated game. I don't understand half the reason why this shit is happening. but it's cool.
Yeah, and it's funny because you're only talking about the games you play, which is 1 and 2. It gets crazier when you start playing the 3DS games and stuff.
I'm not even touching any of those things. I'm just hoping that they just pretend that those things are some sort of background lore that you can kind of, you know, be like okay with, and then just kind of stick with 1 and 2, because I don't even want to whatever the birthday or whatever any other ones those other ones are called. I don't even want to touch them.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it definitely, if the games are purposely confusing like that, it's like you're never going to get, because even the developers don't understand what the fuck's going on. You know?
Sometimes, you know, I one thing I do feel like, especially I feel like Square Enix and Square are kind of mostly guilty about these sorts of things, where they feel like they need to overcomplicate a very simple story.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, hey, it's just a revenge plot. Why do they fight? They fight because the universe and the convergence of two universes converging is why they go together. It's like, whoa. This guy just wants to kill that guy. That's it? That's all that's going on. Like 8. What the fuck was that shit? We conveniently forgot each other, but we all grew up in an orphanage all together. And the final boss, she was our nanny. What?
Yeah, it's like the game had it's like the game had a retcon within itself. You know what I mean? It's like usually you see that in like TV shows. Like in season 8, you find out all the characters actually knew each other when they were kids. You know?
Wait. How did you forget all these people? Like I remember most of the people that I used to hang out with when I was a kid. In fact, some of them I still hang out with.
That is true. Wink, wink. Oh man! All right. Anybody else want to jump in on this, Brian? What about you?
With me, I tend to not be able to follow most stories until at least like 10% into the game. So like, there's been games when I'm just like, okay, so I'm here, I'm doing a thing, and I don't know what it is I'm doing, but then maybe like an hour or 2 hours in, like, okay, now this all makes sense. So I'm just like a slow burner in that sense, and it's the same with films as well. Like I watch a film, and then for the first like half an hour, I'm like, I'm not too sure exactly why and what's going on, and then like halfway through, I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to like get the gist of this. And then usually when I go back and watch the start, then it's like, okay, now things make a lot more sense. So, long story short, you're probably not the only one. I kind of do it as well. I think it's just one of those things.
Yeah, again, I really want to know what his comprehension level is for movies and TV shows, because I would say my comprehension level for movies and TVs is the same with video games. You know, if a movie's purposely confusing, I'm not going to understand it. But I like with Hitman, going back to Hitman, I could understand that because that's a spy movie basically, right? You have to watch them a couple of times to really understand what's going on, because there's like double agents, triple agents, all this other crazy shit going on. So it's not really the game so much as like spy stories in general are really fucking crazy. It took me forever to finally understand the first Mission Impossible movie. You know, I was like, what the fuck's going on here? I had to watch it a bunch of times. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I think it's if he's the type of guy who's gonna do the side quests in Skyrim or gonna just do the main quest. And if you go deep into the game, that's where you start picking up pieces of lore, especially in big RPGs, right? Like you're not gonna learn all about even what happened in previous Elder Scrolls or whatever if you just go on the main path and you're like, you have problems, so what? I'm not going to do that quest. I'm not going to do the thieves quest. I'm not going to do this. But that's where a lot of story is, right? You start finding out all this stuff. You start picking up items, and they each have a story. And Dark Souls is replete with this stuff. Like, I mean, they don't have quest lines or whatever, but when you pick up an item and start looking at it, and it has this whole tale behind it, and if you're like, well, I can make a sword out of this. That's all I care about. Or you go, shit, maybe I should find out what the hell this means. Then you're gonna find out story. Otherwise, you just like looking at the surface, right? So that's that all depends. Like Portal 2, right? If you're just like, man, I'm stuck in this fucking warehouse with this crazy robot trying to kill me. I just want to get the fuck out of here. And you just go room after room, right, to try to avoid death. But then if you listen to all the things GLaDOS says, and then you listen to all the files, and you hear like Cave Johnson, all this shit, and then you start like, wow, okay, this whole corporation and all this shit was built and then she killed everyone, but her AI is based on this woman, and you're like, wow, okay. Like you have to really just go out of your way and like look at examine the world, right? Not just run through and be like, I got to get to the next room so I can get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. By the way, yeah. Last thing, and then we'll move on. Barry Burns says, since Adam's not here, the deepest lore ever in a video game, Rockstar Games table tennis. Yo. All right. Let's get on here because again, we got a lot of questions tonight. Okay. Has DLC ever made you want to buy a game you otherwise wouldn't have thought about getting? I have to say that there is finally one for me. Injustice 2 is getting the Ninja Turtles in proper form. For me, it'll be like a sequel to the 16-bit TMNT Tournament Fighters. I'm actually really excited about it. So yeah, has DLC ever made you buy a game you would not have gotten?
Huh.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think
Great.
so.
It's a great question. My answer is no, but that is a great question. I guess the closest is like, I bought Blood Dragon, even though I've never played a Far Cry game, but that was independent, you know.
Buy Far Cry 3 though.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't. No, there's never been a DLC. Yeah. Even with this, I'm like, yeah, I like Ninja Turtles, but you know, I'll get Injustice 2 when I have Injustice 1. I never even touch this shit. You know. No. So yeah, my answer is no.
My answer is also no. Yeah. I've never seen anything, and it's like, well, now I get it. Well, I do adopt Brian's philosophy of like just wait for the Game of the Year edition and stop pre-ordering stuff and whatever. But that's not because of DLC. It's just because you know the complete game is in that version, right?
Yeah.
Because DLC is really just chopped out content that they just release later. So, in that respect, it's still no.
Yeah. Does anyone have a yes for this one?
Bought a game because of DLC.
Yes, but like a game you would not have bought if it wasn't for the DLC.
No, DLC has never actually gotten me to buy any sort of games that I wouldn't normally buy. Most of the times, it's the game that I've already been playing that already has this amazing DLC. I mean, well, here's a weird one. I wasn't really interested in Infamous Second Son, but I was interested in the DLC that they put in there, and I bought the DLC separate from the actual game.
Yeah, that's kind
of like
I guess that
could count.
But that's my same situation with Far Cry. I never really cared about Far Cry, but I love Blood Dragon, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah.
Like if you bought the Red Dead Redemption, was the zombie...
The Undead Nightmare, right?
Undead Nightmare. It was separate, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're like, I don't like Westerns, but I love zombies. Some people just bought that. You know, and it was separate.
But I mean, I would feel like, isn't that the full? Like, it would have to be the full game that would be made if you bought the whole game.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Like, in other words, it's like, okay, they had this DLC. This is the thing that I want to play, but it gives you the whole game, right?
Yeah. Like if you like, I don't care about GTA 5, but I do like this Doomsday Heist thing. Now I'm going to buy the game, right? That would be DLC making you buy a game. Like it's now reached a point where it's like, I am interested in this. I wasn't before.
I don't know.
It seems now.
Yeah, it seems to me like you're putting the cart before the horse. You know what I mean? It's like DLC is making you buy the game. That's very interesting way of thinking about things.
Some especially with drastic changes to games, like like certain games have had with their DLC, right? Maybe that's the one thing that hit the right note for people. But I mean, like, you know, he puts down Injustice, right? Because they put the Ninja Turtles and Hellboy and all those characters in there. But at least for me, seeing those things, I'm like, oh, that's cool. But I wasn't really that impressed with the Injustice games in general. But I do appreciate that they're in there, if you understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that the Turtles look like the ones from the movie, you know, the first movie. That's cool. You know,
I mean, it's surprising as hell because it's like, whoa, hey, you're putting these characters that are from other companies in there now. I mean, you probably will never see a Marvel character in there, but that's not going to stop Warner Brothers from paying fucking Mike Mignola and Paramount a little cash to put their characters in there, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, Daniel Lawson says Two Worlds DLC turned a 2 out of 10 game into a 7 out of 10 game. I don't know what Two Worlds is. They might have said something here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah.
You'd have to explain that a little better.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on here to the next question, which is from Damien, Mr. Damien. Now, before the question, he has a couple of things he wants to tell us. The first one is because, again, he was in the Virgin Islands when the hurricane hit. So this is what he has to say. He goes, I got power back in mid-October. I got my Xbox One X at launch. Currently, electricity has been restored to 95% of the country. Okay, that's good.
Wow.
Yeah.
95%.
Yeah, no, that's back. Yeah, no, that's what's back. That's good. It's been restored. He goes, but
it's good. I mean, 95%. There's still like areas that don't have any power.
Well, think about it. They were at 0% before.
Yeah,
that's
so crazy.
He goes, but our ISP is only at 60%, so the internet is not very good. Since I got back power, I have beaten Super Lucky's Tale, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Gears 4, Wolf Among Us, Halo 5, and Batman Arkham Asylum, I guess, because it's AA. Yeah, Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, it might be because the HD versions did come out, and he said he got the Xbox One X, right?
Yeah. And
so he probably got the fancy shiny version.
Exactly. And of course, this is Damien. He got to throw a little shade at us. Okay, he goes, I listened to Throwdown 171, and I find it interesting how the panel made it seem like the only Xbox only the Xbox side has toxic fans. Did you all forget that Sony fans have a reputation of sending death threats to developers? Did you also not see the comment section on N4G? First of all, we didn't say that Xbox is the only one with the toxic fans. We were just saying that it's interesting how the company, at least, this was my opinion, by the way, a company that kind of fostered that type of fan would now try to change its image. That's what I found interesting, but we're not saying they're the only ones. I would actually argue that Nintendo fans are, when it comes to toxicity, are actually worse than Xbox fans, because I never had any Xbox guys try to take my job from me. Nintendo guys are on a whole other level, man. Also, the death threats, where's his reputation coming from? Like, I know the No Man's Sky developers got death threats, but they weren't Sony guys. They were like, they could have been Sony, they could have been PC. We don't really know where those came from, So I don't know where the reputation came from. And also the N4G thing, I'm like, it's a bunch of idiots in there anyway from all consoles, It's not just Sony specifically,
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, Damien. Everybody can be a fucking dick.
Yep.
Everybody. It doesn't matter what you like. The thing is that people, you got to look at it this way. It's people looking for justification of the purchases that they made. That they don't feel that somehow that the thing that they bought is what they want. And they have to try to evangelize and change other people's minds who've already made their decisions.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay to love your console. If you obviously have said in the past, and you've said in your past you're very happy with your purchase. All right, there we go. Then the conversation is over. But as you know, a lot of people tend to fall into this trap. It's not trap, but into this sort of mindset where they need to be overly protective. You know what? You don't need to be overly protective over something. It's a product. It's the thing you buy at the store. It's like being overprotected over Avion water, over friggin' Fiji water. It's fucking water.
Yeah, the console you buy isn't you. You know what I'm saying? It's not a part of you. It's just something you do.
It's not a part of your family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could see going to battle over somebody saying some shit about your family or somebody a close friend or anybody like that. But over a console, a piece of plastic.
Yeah, it's silly. Anyway, let's get to this man's question. So his first one is, it seems online was the last evolution in gaming. What do you think will be the next evolution to change gaming or move it forward? VR or cloud-based gaming?
You already know Brett's answer.
Yeah, we yeah.
You know what, the funny thing is that Damien, this not to. I know your situation over there in the islands over there, and you're not having very good internet. I feel like that would be the biggest holdback for cloud-based gaming. Just low crappy infrastructure or some sort of event happening, and as instantly people losing their internet. And let's say something important like, I don't know, for like what they're saying with the new with Crackdown, where it has supposedly has the destructible environments that somehow connect to the cloud and remember that you destroyed a building or something like that. Now, that wouldn't work that damn well if your internet is not at a certain level. So I feel like just out of just because it is because it is a physical product and it's not dependent on some sort of external updating system between the cloud or anything like that, I would have to say with VR, go with VR.
Yeah, my thing is like, even though VR is still like coming into its own, one quick thing I want to say, because I notice that every time I go to another event, try out another VR game, I notice they're getting better as games. They're, like, even though they're all being worked on by different companies, they're all reaching this one point, and every game I play is better than the last, right? So I had to bring that up real quick. It's very important. VR, even though it's not a revolution like a lot of people thought, it has put its foot down, right? And it has found a spot that, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere, right? I mean, I'm talking about VR gaming in general. I know VR itself is really not going anywhere. That's entrenched in there. VR gaming, I think it has enough of a hold where it's not going to go anywhere. Cloud-based gaming, as we've talked about many times, with the infrastructure of internet, like especially in America being so shitty, that's not reliable. So even though it could be a revolution in terms of like, hey, you don't have to actually buy games. You just buy a system, you subscribe to a service, and you play games carte blanche, right? That's a great idea. The thing is, the reality doesn't actually make it feasible, right? So right now, again, I don't think either of these two are going to be a revolution or whatever. It's going to be a slow crawl. But yeah, VR definitely the one you know that's going to be the safer bet, because like Manny said, if the internet goes down, you could still play your VR games, no problem.
And the other thing is, it's not dependent on. Well, I mean, VR already has the baseline technology that's set out there. For cloud-based gaming to work, we would all have to have equivalent connectivity, and we actually don't. You know, there are some countries that are better off than others. There's some literally towns that are better off than others because they made these sorts of decisions. So it's totally dependent on some exterior thing. Whereas as opposed to VR, VR pretty much will work the same way, just better in each iteration.
Yeah, by the way, as Daniel kind of points out, he's right. VR, if you really think about it, is just a step towards really immersive gaming, because you still have to have this shit on your head or whatever. If you could ever make, I know we can't actually make this happen, but if you can make something akin to a holodeck, then you're good to go. So, you know, VR is a step towards that, you know. VR itself, you know, the actual thing we have now, not a revolution, but it's a step towards that, you know.
I also think
yeah, go ahead.
That VR gaming would work if the TV market died. Because if you think about it, if people are just buying their consoles or PCs or whatever just to strap in their VR headset, that means that they don't require a TV anymore. So it kind of, you know, like, so especially for Sony, because they manufacture TVs, it's going to hurt their business a lot if VR does become the standard and revolutionize gaming as we know it.
Well, the thing is that they've already the thing about Sony is they kind of already dipped their toe in the VR pool already. So they've kind of already assured if that does go in that sort of direction, they can move their move developments, you know, in VR toward that. I feel like, you know, like there's also a lot of crossover between the TV market and the, you know, and the VR because of the display section, you know?
Yeah. And as far as cloud gaming, I mean, I guess that's just kind of really ambiguous.
Yeah, it's a buzzword if you really think about it, you know?
Because you can twist it to say cloud gaming is when you download a video game into your console. Or do you mean like the whole game is being processed by an external entity, like kind of like what PS Now does, or is it just like some assets that are being processed in the cloud? Like,
well, that's the problem with the marketing buzzword. It's not specific, right? It could be any of those things you just said.
Yep. So it's like
cloud,
because some of those aspects already revolutionized gaming. Some of the aspects probably won't.
Yeah. By the way, I'm chatting with Daniel there. He's a big proponent on cloud gaming. He feels that's going to be the future. It again had great potential, but with the shitty internet, it ain't going to work, man. He's talking about how like, oh, Microsoft is investing $3 billion farms in Australia and Asia. Do you live in those countries? I don't. You know.
By the way, Cloud gaming I would definitely put my money on cloud gaming if all these companies decide to start buying all the GPUs.
Yeah, right.
It's like now you have no choice but to cloud game.
Well,
At least
also, Microsoft's investment track record is not anything to look at in terms of them keeping it. Like how many $1 billion did they invest in Zune? Go look into it. How much money was put into HoloLens? Where is it?
How
Like,
much money was put into Nokia?
yeah, they bought Nokia for $8 billion. Windows Phone isn't going anywhere. Like, there's all these things that they invest. They buy whole software companies too, and have them they bury. You know, so that the investment in that kind of Microsoft would have to invest way more money unless they want to hire construction workers and start laying fiber in the street and shit in all over the world or whatever, or get satellites. That ain't gonna do much. Like the R&D they would need to do would give them the same result. The infrastructure sucks, and you have to change it. They're not going to be the ones to change it.
Yeah.
So that's not that you're back. We're back to the same problem.
Infrastructure has to do with, plain and simple, the cable companies that provide the internet. It's really them that has to improve infrastructure, and they all have to agree on what to offer and what to throttle.
And we don't have net neutrality anymore. That's going to be a factor, you know?
So yeah, I mean, and we don't have net neutrality anymore. We don't have anything to block these people from doing these sorts of things. So hey, let's say our infrastructure just does magically leap in maybe 4 years, right? Okay, so what are they going to start charging you? They're going to start charging you cloud computing, a cloud computing section. You know,
exactly.
how much you can stream, how much you can stream between your thing. They already do that now with YouTube and Netflix.
And before you say they can't do that, remember they used to charge you for text messages.
Yeah,
Yep.
they used to do that.
That's
so they
right.
could charge you for whatever they want.
That's what I was telling guys back in the day. I'm like, don't send me no fucking text, man. You're costing me money right now. 25 cents for text. It was brutal,
oh man. And it was both ways, man.
Yep.
So sometimes you couldn't even help it.
Yep.
It's crazy. Yeah. So they're gonna nickel and dime you, man. Watch. Anyway, I want to move on to the next question. Again, we got a bunch tonight. Damien's second question is, why is it that Switch is being looked at and compared to the current generation of consoles and not a next-gen system? Wasn't Wii U the competitor to the PS4 and Xbox One? Great question, man. I really like this one. Chris, what's your take on this, man? Like, I mean, I have my answer, but what do you make of this? Like, is Switch actually a current-gen system, or is it a next-gen system?
Well, here's the problem. Like, this is the problem with Nintendo being in their own like wheelhouse with the Blue Ocean and all this stuff, and releasing things off schedule and whatnot. It is competing with the current gen systems only because that's what exists right now. The Switch is not a next gen system by far. It's not even a current gen system. So let's get that straight. And anybody touting the opinion that somehow the Switch is some kind of hybrid powerhouse or some bullshit is living in a fantasy land. It exists in this market, so it is competing in this market, right? Now, legitimately, he's right, and in terms of if you look at the number of generations, then the Wii U, yes, should have gone up against the PS4 and the Xbox One right now, right? And it's gone. But in terms of hardware, it was nowhere close. The Wii U was basically a 360. It was like a weak 360. You know, it was not going to compete on any level of hardware with the current systems right now, especially not the Pro and the X, right? So Nintendo had to change tactics, and what they're doing now is working. So I admitted it. So it wasn't on power that they went on. They went in a totally different direction. Now they have completely screwed up the numbering. They're not in line with the guys they are competing with, and let's be real, they are competing with them. So this would be, I don't know. This would technically is right, but it isn't because it is not in. It can't compete on the level if you're looking at just power, right? If you're looking at your X and you're like, does a Switch compete with this? Absolutely not, right? On the Pro, absolutely not. Like as in terms of hardware. So if you look at it in that respect, it's not. But if you look at numbering, just strict numbering, like what generation is this? Yeah, he would be right. So it's in a weird place, and Nintendo has created that kind of fissure because they're just trying to do their own thing at the same time while competing with Sony and Microsoft, who is sticking to the generational cycle, but they're changing it now with iterative. But it's they're the only ones keeping in line with how classically things were done.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Here's the thing: when Nintendo, Chris already, pretty much said it. Generate technologically wise, right? Because it's interesting how generations used to be, everything came out at this time. It's a generation. Then generation morphed into whatever the technology is, right? So speaking from a technological standpoint, Nintendo for 15, 17 years now has been one generation behind technologically, right? When the when PS3 came out, we had the Wii, right? Which was essentially like, PS2 type level shit. I know it's a GameCube, but it's PS2 type level shit. Then with the PS4 situation, it's interesting because they released the Wii U, which was on par with the PS3, right? Then they released the Switch during the same generation. And the Switch is, it's not even on par with the PS4. So it's in this weird spot, but yeah, so I guess the long and short of it is Nintendo released two systems during the same generation. And since that's the case, you have to consider both of them as competitors to PS4 and Xbox. I know that sounds weird, but again, Nintendo lives in their own little world and stuff. We're just trying to compare it to the actual world. So yeah, that's what's going on. So it is fair to compare the Switch to PS4 and Xbox because that is the direct competitors. I know some people say, no, they're not competitors, they're doing their own thing. No, if they're vying for your money, if there's still video games in the end, they're competitors. We've explained this shit many times. I don't need to go back through it again. So yes, both of those systems were competitors to current gen systems, PS4 and Xbox One.
So if this same Switch released, let's say a year before the PS5 and Xbox 2 came out, would it have still been considered this gen or next gen?
It's a good question. What's going on, Adam?
What's up? You hear me?
Yeah,
did The Rock win, man?
The Rock. But Ronda Rousey showed up. She started whooping ass.
Yeah, I don't know. Can somebody answer Carlos Scores? I really don't know how to answer that one.
I don't understand. Like, this seems kind of like splitting hairs because it to a certain extent it does stand alone. In function. I'm trying to think of this through the eyes of like a cell phone carrier or something like that. Like, how is the newest laptop, or a laptop that comes out 6 months ago, is that current generation or old generation? Like, I think the lines are blurred a little bit with Nintendo because they kind of make a habit of releasing half generation. That's kind of their thing. So you could say it's, this is their, blank generation, sixth, something like that, or whatever it is. But I don't know if next gen even really applies to the Switch. Fuck, I don't even know if it applies to consoles anymore. I mean, next gen isn't a term to be used in perpetuity. It was something that was, sold for the big rollover of PS2 to PS3 and then kind of hung on for PS3 to PS4 / Xbox equivalent eras.
Well, to be fair, we've been using the term next generation for like 30 years now, something like that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't apply. So, I mean, if you're asking, is it current gen technology? Yes, by the way that words are used, it is the current generation of technology. It is not the last generation, and it does not have a generation after it. So it is Nintendo's current gen system. But it will also be a current gen system when the PS5 comes out, if the Switch is still out, because that is Nintendo's current generation of systems. It's you can't compare apples and oranges to, well, I know it's their current generation of system, but is it the current generation of system? Like, what the hell does that even mean?
Yeah, Nintendo just fucked everything up by releasing 2 systems during one generation. You know.
Yeah, well, that's because the first one flopped. I mean, realistically, they're late to the party. That's if you're asking, are they late to this party or early to the next party? They're late to this party. That's where it stands. But will the Switch still be their current gen system well into PS5 and whatever the next Xbox is called? Yeah, probably. I think they want to make it a 10-year system. It's not going to be a 10-year system, but I think they want to make it one. So you realistically expect at least, a 5-year lifespan before it gets an overhaul. But, do we ask this question about Game Boys? Is this just because, excuse me, DS, is this just because it also kind of works as a quasi console? Is that the only reason we're asking this?
It's not. There's nothing quasi about it.
Oh, come on. It's not a real fully fledged console.
It is.
It is. The Switch, it's a console. It's a console, yeah. Even Nintendo, we're not going to go down this road again. We are not going to go down this road again.
Y'all know what I mean.
No, again.
You went down this road.
We've been down this road too many times, man.
We're so crazy about so crazy.
Hold on. By the way, I'm checking out Wikipedia right now. It's interesting because they had, for each generation, they have Wii U, PlayStation 4, Xbox, right? No Switch. And I'm looking at the Switch. It doesn't even say what generation it's part of.
Generation X.
We don't know what generation it is.
Nintendo fucked everything up, man.
That shit's gonna be freaking annoying for the historians in the future.
It really is, man. It's confusing for us now. Shit. All right. Let's move on to the next question here. Black Metal Gamer. All right. So his first question is, what game franchises would you like to see get the prequel treatment like Yakuza 0 or Resident Evil 0?
Well,
I have an asshole answer, but I'll save it for later.
The first thing that came into mind was Uncharted, because there's no other way but down. If after you finish Uncharted 4, so it's like the dude is like pretty old now. It's like, I don't want to play old Drake.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like Uncharted 0 or whatever. Yeah. I'm just gonna say,
it's tough to get to pay off though. Like, you already know what characters are going to live, what characters are going to die, where most people end up. I not trying to derail the conversation. I always have trouble having a prequel with established characters. So I'd probably say you need a game where you're exploring the story of an area or a land or a relic or what the fuck ever, some kind of cycle. Dark Souls, Zelda, something like that. Maybe even Horizon.
I mean, Zelda, like a prequel to Zelda is pretty much the same game.
Well, if they want to go in the current timeline, they could go back and kind of tell some of the current cataclysm through the last iteration. Or whatever, they could tell the story of how he came to be sealed away in the Chamber of Time. That's not the best example. I think it'd be really cool to see a prequel to the Dark Souls trilogy where you actually get to see everything in its height and kind of falling. I think maybe like a Last of Us sequel, like where you get to play as somebody else, maybe, because The Last of Us is just as much about the world as it is the characters. So maybe you could play somebody else through the fall of society or something like that.
Damn, you guys are giving out some good answers here. Shit. I was gonna give the dick answer, even though I love Yakuza 0. I would actually say don't do zeros. You don't need to do that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, those actually are. It would be interesting to play a Last of Us game where you're actually playing through the fall of civilization, not just afterwards. That would be pretty interesting, actually. Now that I think about it.
You'd have to play as a different character so that you're not just like, oh, I know what's gonna happen here.
Yeah, or they do one of those bullshit things where like, hey, look, we stuck a character that into this version.
I was gonna say they should make a Super Mario 0, but we got that with Yoshi's Island, didn't we? If you think about it.
Oh yeah, that's Mario 0.
Yeah, beyond 0. Wait. My man's diapers and shit.
It's premature Mario.
Yeah.
You know what I wanted is so Zero Dawn was one project in that universe. You remember the other one?
Yeah.
Starship?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I would love that story.
Oh.
Right? Totally different, right? It's not happening on Earth.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to spoil too much, but Would that be like an alternate universe type of story?
Well, no,
remember,
because
they do give
the
a
ship,
definitive end to that ship, and
well, they say it was a ship, but how do you know?
that
Like, how do they know?
that's a fact. That is a
They're
fact.
too busy getting murdered by nanobots. Oh, we lost the ship. It's like, well, you're not there, man. You don't know. What it could be like Planet of the Apes. Fucking, they're in the future.
Yo, hold on. My mind is. I'll stop because I could spoil it right now for those who haven't played. Wait, Horizon's been out a year, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Well, I want to. You want to?
No, because you know my personal rule is 1 year I get to spoil the fuck out of it, but I'm not gonna do it. Oh wait,
February, right?
Yeah, I technically by my rules I can do it, but somebody must have. I'll stop. But Chris, you're making me. Your ideas are spinning in my head right now, man. You know. By the way, so Doctor 12 Evil says the Order 1886, so it'll be the Order 1885. You know.
Well, I mean, it'd be nice to kind of play the first how the Order, because again, the Order is one of those situations where it's like, you know, it's not, the Order is not totally about Galahad's story. It could be an interesting thing to kind of explore the creation of the Order. You know, where it would essentially be like a sword and sorcery sort of game.
Yeah, it would actually take place in medieval times too, I believe.
Which would be kind of interesting.
That would be cool.
The Order 1086.
Yes, there you
the
go.
Order 1086. Yeah, because
the Order 886.
Oh,
there you go.
Maybe they'll actually let you fight some werewolves as opposed to locking you in those kind of corridors.
Oh man, quick time events.
Lafayette.
Yeah. That again. I go back to that, man. That's the one misgiving I have about that. I wish it was like where it was like you fucking like Resident Evil or something like that, where some of the guys that you shoot just randomly freak out and fucking attack you, like what happened with the Plagas or the what's those guys, the African ones that you fight. I can't remember what they call them. The Kajuju
Ouroboros.
Yeah, the Ouroboros
the
creatures.
guys.
Whereas, like, in other words, sometimes you'd be like, you shoot them and then they die, and then sometimes they just freak out and turn into a weird armored thing.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. I don't know. This is gonna be like a kind of inelegant analogy, but I'm thinking like this with the Order 1886. So you have this room full of really cool shit, right? You have all the stuff you could play around with, and they decide to just, you know, dress up in the fanciest suit. I'm like, yo, you got guns and crazy flying cars. Use that shit. No, I just want to look nice. You know what I mean? It's like there's so much potential there. Like Daniel says, the story is actually based on Arthurian, you know, King Arthur and shit. If you go really back, like, come on, man, so much potential there. You know. So hopefully, if they make another one, yeah, that'd be cool. Dude, I would love that prequel. Actually, the Order 886. Do that.
I mean, here's one thing I kind of want to see, and it really doesn't need to be said because it's kind of like it would be a little bit redundant because there was already games that already kind of talked about this already, but actually having a Metal Gear game where you actually play the boss in it.
Ooh, okay.
And you kind of go through her journey.
Like World War II stuff.
Yeah, World War II stuff and all that stuff. Like Metal Gear craziness mixed with World War II stuff. That might be kind of interesting.
Metal Gear Zero.
There you go. Or there was another one. Well, I mean, they kind of did it with Final Fantasy VII, where you play Zack. That's kind of Final Fantasy Zero, Final Fantasy VII Zero.
Yeah, Crisis Core.
Hey, Chris, is there room in Metroid for a prequel? Like, I'm a bit fuzzy on the first time that they discovered, not even Samus, but the first time Metroids were discovered.
They'd have to get rid of Other M because that was like embarrassing. The flashback that he has in there is like stupid. Yeah,
you need to do that anyway, but
yeah, you could do that. Like, I mean, you could have it cross into her childhood too. Maybe she didn't just become a badass bounty hunter. Maybe she was inspired by someone. That would be interesting, right?
She has the boss.
It was the boss.
It was the boss that taught her to.
Wasn't Samus raised by like a crazy alien race and stuff that taught her all that shit?
Well, yeah, her family was killed and their people and the Chozo raised her.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Yeah, that could be cool. All right, any other games you guys think? Brian, get in here. What games do we want to see get a zero or whatever?
I think for the most part, you guys have covered like the interesting ones. Like, I really can't think of anything that I would want, really. And every single time that you mention like a zero type game, I just get flashbacks of God of War Ascension. I'm just like, Yeah, let's move on, please.
Ooh, I
Well,
got one. I got one. I
think of God
want.
of War,
Yeah,
The Chains of Olympus, and the other one, and those are prequels.
we did get a God of War 0 though with Ascension, kind of. I guess that wasn't 0,
Yeah, that
but
was a
whatever.
bad one.
Anyway, I got another one. Oh shit, Mass Effect. Mass Effect. I want one set during the Turian Human War. You know, like for the First Contact War. That's the thing I'm thinking about. First Contact War game. That'd be fucking legit.
I'd like that, but I thought about that. I want them to double down on like what the fuck happened to the manipulation of Mass Effect. Like what
Yes.
that seems like it got dumbed down with each game. So if you did a prequel, you'd have to be like when they first discovered, you have to have crazy biotics and shit.
So not even necessarily how the hell the mass relays got set up and shit created and.
Oh, with the I mean that would be interesting too. Where you see the I'm forgetting their name now, where they get destroyed by the Reapers. That'd be cool. But yeah, by the way, the original ending of Mass Effect was actually supposed to involve Mass Effect fields, but they totally ditched that with the stupid colored endings. You know.
I know.
Oh,
You could also do a Dragon Age prequel.
Yeah, it was. Here's the funny. That would be cool.
It's
So much.
hilarious with Dragon Age because the first game was called Dragon Age Origins.
Yeah, but it took up with the everybody being like the first thing that happens is everybody dies. Like, well, the sword has been around for like ever, right?
Yeah, I mean, a Dragon Age game set during like the height of the Tevinter Imperium would be fucking amazing because like everybody's using magic and shit. That could be cool. Hey, Adam, I got one for you, man. Tabletop 10 is 0, man. Let's go.
I got one better than that. Ready?
Yeah.
Call of Duty.
0.
Back in Rome. Yeah.
Oh shit,
Roman
yo.
Empire. That would be badass.
Rome.
Yeah, if you're running out there in the battlefield with the sword and a mallet, with a big mace.
See, that's a Call of Duty I would want to play, man.
Be awesome. That would be awesome.
If
they were
they-
talking about that a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember
saw a
that.
prototype, and then remember, and it didn't materialize. That would be badass.
I'm
Call of
down with
Duty.
that.
Adam,
World War
would it have Vikings?
World War Zero. I like
World
that.
War 0.
World War. Why not? Why not have it like where you just jump in and out? Vikings, knights, jump all over the place. That'd be awesome.
I'd play that.
That'd be crazy. All right, man, let's move on here.
They'll see the need to add a machine gun of some sort because
Yes.
you
We'll
just
get a
have
nice
to.
loot crate that drops with a sword that you turn lights in flames or something. Oh,
Yeah.
But then we're running into the fantasy realm.
Yeah. Anyway,
We'll
let's
do it for
move,
multiplayer.
let's
Anything
move
goes.
on. Let's move on here. Next question. He goes, if you could change each of the 3 gaming consoles' first-party IP developers, what developers would you pick? He goes, for example, I like Visceral Games, rest in peace, doing Metroid, or From Software doing a Dark Zelda game. So this question kind of interesting. So you want a third-party developer to make a first-party IP, I guess?
Which has happened. Other M was made by
Other
a
M,
third party.
yeah, that's true. I've
but
said
it's
it a
not
million
good.
times, you know, in
It
case
never works out when it happens, though.
yeah, it never
That's the
does.
thing.
But I guess in an ideal situation, I've already said it. I want From Software to do Castlevania. Those games are Castlevania games already, if you think about it. You know, I'm down with that.
What is a man?
I don't know. That's a tricky one.
Yeah, but interesting that he picked Visceral Games. Visceral Games doesn't exist anymore. You know, as far as I know.
Bungie to do Halo.
Oh shit!
Yeah, just hire them to do Halo for.
Yo, that's
I think
crazy.
343 is doing an okay job.
Daniel,
stories,
Yeah, they're doing a good job.
Do you guys do you really want the people in charge of Destiny in charge of Halo?
You mean
Hey,
the
man.
current guys? Yeah, there'll be loot boxes everywhere, and they'd be hiding a shitload of content behind paywalls.
in other words, it'd be a really cool game to play for 2 weeks, and you realize it's just nothing but grinding, boring grinding. Yeah,
Fun
sure.
streams though.
Yeah, it would be. Daniel says BioWare make a Halo RPG. It'd be interesting.
It could be cool.
I don't know
Alright,
about
okay.
BioWare right now.
Well, I mean, here's the thing.
Old BioWare.
BioWare
Good
at their
BioWare. Good
peak.
BioWare. Yeah.
Yeah, we need a prequel to BioWare.
Oh shit.
Wow. Who else would That's a hard one.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Because the thing is, like, the first party studios, I feel, already doing a good job. You know what I mean? Like Uncharted, it's like, yeah, keep Naughty Dog doing Uncharted, man. You don't really need another one in there. You know.
How about How about Coalition making Uncharted and Naughty Dog making Gears?
Oh, shit, switch them up, you know.
That'd be a weird. That'd be an interesting thing. Or how about this would be, this is, or how about we just switch around from any single developer? What if we had the Mario Galaxy guys developing a Ratchet and Clank game?
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Or Mario Odyssey, same guys.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Instead of having so many cool guns, you just have one really cool one.
Yes.
Yeah, you'd have one really cool one that has. You would get you essentially get some small changes to, but essentially it's the same thing.
Yep.
You just work simple.
Put the Monster Hunter guys on Pokemon.
But then they would kill everything. You'd have to murder everything.
This is
you capture lots of monsters.
Yeah,
I'll murder them in the name of research.
This is gonna sound weird because it's kind of like going back. Platinum making a Devil May Cry game.
Yep, that would be. Yeah. That's Bungie developing
Bungie.
Halo.
Exactly. That's why I said that. That would be cool. What Daniel says, Rare. What if Rare made a Donkey Kong game?
What if Rare made a Donkey Kong? I would say I would love to see like Platinum take back the shit that they created for Capcom, like Devil May Cry,
Beautiful
Okami, Joe. And Beautiful Joe. Just take those shits back and do some new games because Capcom ain't doing shit with that.
Cool. All right. But any other games?
Oh yeah. What if you had the guys who created Monster Hunter developing a new Horizon game?
Ooh, and vice versa. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, you just switch places.
That'd be interesting.
Definitely the Monster Hunter game would be way more story oriented.
Yo, Techno, you still eating that Super Mario cereal, bro?
Yo, I'm sure that shit's like the original Super Mario cereal. You can't eat like all of it because you cut the roof of your mouth.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like Captain Crunch, man.
Yeah.
Yo, Dr. 12 Evil goes, Kojima Studios or Kojima Productions rebooting Siphon Filler. That'd be crazy. You got a Siphon.
No, I feel like Kojima would not touch any is not in the mood to touch any sort of established franchises. But it's an interesting aspect.
And this was Tony's one. Like, well, Konami's more embarrassing than ever lately. But Castlevania, give it to From Software, man.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, give them all of it. Like, don't even keep it because you guys are embarrassing.
Yeah. He's on his third bowl, man. You must really like that cereal.
Oh my god,
it's delicious.
That's good thing you don't have lactose intolerance or something.
Yeah, hey,
do that with some soy milk.
But tell me that isn't perfect though. It's like you're watching your favorite video game podcast while eating your favorite video game cereal. That's like meta, son.
And your cat's licking your big toe.
All right. Shit. All right, let's move on, man. We still got a bunch of questions here. From Liam Collingwood. I believe that's a first timer. Hello.
Sounds new.
Okay, do you think Nintendo will ever make a cheap version of the Switch without a dock, just the Joy-Cons attached to the screen? This is the reason I'm holding on buying a Switch. I'm not interested in playing a quote-unquote next-generation game on a substandard HD, that substandard HD on a 4K television. This is what I think Nintendo's next move may be down the line, along with some type of Switch Pro to get more people interested and to move away from the 3DS. So yeah, do we predict we're gonna get like a Switch without a dock? Yes. Oh, yeah, that's gonna happen. It's gonna be they're gonna call it the Switch. They're gonna call it the Switch Mini. It's gonna be an actual proper handheld. I watched that shit happen. So now I was a little bit
the switcheroo.
The switcheroo. Yeah, I don't know when. Don't quote us, but it's gonna happen. They're gonna make a dedicated Switch handheld. It's gonna happen.
And that's actually going to be kind of portable.
It's going to be actually portable, not that big hunking thing that the Switch is. It's going to be like you can actually hold it in your hands and stuff without being uncomfortable. Yeah, it'll happen within the next, I'm going to say 2 or 3 years, depending on how successful Switch is, which it's already being successful. Remember what happened with the 3DS? They released 1 million 3DSs and DSs and stuff. It's going to happen. Just watch. We kind of talked about this before. That's our general answer. Unless anybody objects to that.
No, I don't see that. I see if it does as well, if it does continues at the rate that it's doing, watch Nintendo release in like 20 different versions of this left, right, and crooked in different ways.
You know what I want?
There's going to be there's going to be the HD one, like the 4K one.
Well, that's the one I want. I want just the home console one. That's what I want. I
want the one that glows. Press a button, it hovers a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, and maybe like after a year, I could see Nintendo selling the Switch discounted, like at maybe $250 without the dock, and just sell it and just trying to bank on people wanting to buy the dock afterwards at a more expensive price.
Yeah,
like $80.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening, like a mini-ear Switch. All right, moving on. Next question: do you think Sony is missing an opportunity to revive Socom in a PUBG/Fortnite style? I'm gonna go to Brian first for this one. He's the big Socom guy here. Brian, what do you think about that idea? Make Socom like PUBG.
No, I think that at this point in time, Sony has lost. No, the Socom fans have lost faith in the Socom brand itself because the last two were just not that great. So I think any type of revival will just go down. Well, sorry, any type of revival that reminisces or that tries to emulate it on the game will just go down as Sony just being desperate and piss off the fan base even more. Best thing that they can do is just let it die at this point in time, which is rather unfortunate, but it's the way things have been. Sucks.
Yeah, Chris, you were saying?
Oh no, I wasn't saying anything.
I thought you were going to get ready. Yeah, whatever. I don't care. I don't care about Socom or PUBG. So whatever.
I was just confused at the question with Brian.
I don't know. I mean, like it's an interesting idea, but at the same time, I feel like it's something along those lines. I could see the game Mag being updated. Being put into a PUBG sort of universe rather than the Socom games. Just because of the way the Socom games were. I mean, again, we're talking about Socom. That's like taking Metal Gear and turning it into some crazy multiplayer bullshit. You know what I mean?
You mean Survive?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
You mean Survive? They made that, man.
So yeah, see exactly. So I feel like if you want to still stay with the sorts of massive sort of idea, I feel like Mag is the better place to do that. Imagine if you could have like 100 players. What was it like? How much was it?
250.
250. Did it ever have that many people at one time? I don't
know.
Well, Brian knows best because he was playing it.
What?
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. Like, what if you had that PUBG environment, like a huge, massive environment, and 250 people friggin' running around?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, hey Adam, here's one for you. Sar is great. Says he'd like Ubisoft to do a Socom like game, like Wildlands, big open world game and stuff.
Yeah. I feel like it has some of those elements already, but yeah, they could easily do it. I mean, we could see that in Wildlands 2.
Because I find this very interesting. Two separate people talking about Socom.
Yeah, but the thing is, we get a Socom question at least once a month, which is very interesting,
I'm guessing the hunger's real then.
Yeah. By the way, Daniel says, anyone remember Wizards and Warriors on NES? Microsoft owns that IP. Very interesting. I didn't know that.
Could it be that sort of, like how Halo, Gears, and PUBG, like people on PlayStation are kind of starving for something like that as an exclusive title?
Yeah, maybe.
There's not really like a huge shooter exclusive like one of those Call of Duty types or
Call of Duty. How to do it? I had to do it, man.
Pow pow pew pew pew.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on here. This is a question from Joey Williams, who's actually Seth. We haven't heard from Seth in a long time. This isn't really so much of a question, but it kind of is. So I'm going to throw it in there anyway. He goes, what is the need for backwards compatibility? Just keep the console you already own. Then you can never complain about wanting to play games you already own. That's on us, not on these corporations.
It's because people want to move on with their buddies, and if you're like still playing on the other one, be like, "Oh, you need to come play with us." And you're like, "But I'm on this one," and I was like, "Yeah, but we all moved on, but I don't wanna," and you get one of those situations.
Yeah, my thing is like, listen, man, HDMI slots are very limited on TVs, bro. Sometimes you have to move on. I would
I have
love
a
to have
splitter if you want.
Yeah, I actually do have a splitter myself, but even with a splitter, it's not enough. I had to buy a splitter because mine only has 2 HDMI slots, so I had to buy a splitter so I got Xbox and PlayStation. But now, I got my cable in there too, so I'm already ran out of shit. Because there's still a bunch of PS3 games I would like to go back to, finish and shit.
First thing I would like to ask is how old is our
Seth?
friend here?
I don't know.
Seth, because the want, I feel like if you're a little bit older, you remember the times when there were no backward compatibility, but we always wanted it. And then Sony came and said, "Oh yeah, we can do that." And then everybody else kind of followed suit until Sony saw that they had to pull it all out because it was the one thing that they wanted to push on their thing.
And let's just be honest, not everyone is going to have like their old CRTVs to play old Nintendo consoles and stuff. Some do, but not a lot of people.
I mean, you have enthusiasts that are looking for those sorts of experience. But what if in every single iteration of console, you could play every single one of those games that you previously had? That'd be an awesome thing.
Yeah, and you realize the system makers and stuff want to control that legacy market, right? So if you leave it open, if you say these companies should go, that's on you, then you create an evergreen space where you're gonna get retro engines and retrons and all this stuff. You already have it, but you'll have more of that. You'll have somebody come in and go, well, I can emulate that hardware, and I'll give people that experience in one system and play 5 different things or 16 different systems or whatever it is. You'll open up the market to that, and then they can't control it. So, and now, like with Nintendo, it's like, yeah, they could have virtual console and whatever, or you spend 5 minutes on Google, get every ROM from Game Boy and Super Nintendo, whatever, and go get an emulator.
Or you buy that new console that we talked about not long ago. What was
the
it
Super
called?
NT or
The Super NT, right?
Yeah.
Chris,
so yeah, and that's a third-party company. That's not
exactly.
Nintendo.
Yeah, and from what you guys said, you could buy that Super Nintendo cartridge that has like 1 million games on it, stick that shit in there, and you're good to go.
And not to mention, it's a better experience than Nintendo actually put out with their little Raspberry Pi console that they put out.
That's right, the classic edition. That's right. It is a better
the little
experience.
classic edition doesn't play games nearly as well as that one-to-one console that they built. These guys built.
It's crazy, man.
It's always nice to have everything in the same ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of sucks. Like even if the UIs for example the PlayStation and Xbox are kind of shit. It's always nice to have like just one place where you can play everything. And not only that, like games sometimes run like shit on their original consoles. For example, there's a lot of games on PlayStation 3 that run like shit, like a lot of the Bethesda games. So if those are sort of backwards compatible, yeah, man. If those are backwards compatible and you can play them on your PlayStation 10, and I'm pretty sure they're probably going to run better on that. It's possible. So
yeah. It's just convenient. That's what we like. Nobody wants to have 1 million consoles plugged in, man.
Yeah, even if they're plugged in, they drain power.
Yeah, exactly. Again, some people do that. The enthusiast guys and stuff, they have a ton of consoles hooked up, but most people only have 1 or 2 consoles hooked up at one at a time. They don't go crazy like that. If you do, that's cool. Not knocking it, but I'm just saying that's why people they like backwards compatible
also,
shit.
On the occasion that they still are able to do these sorts of things, Sony could put out, some of these consoles could reprint discs if they want to, or even just the fact of just having a rollover from all of your downloadable games. I mean, how many if we want to talk about the PlayStation environment, how many PlayStation PlayStation Network games have you bought, and how they're essentially null on the PlayStation 4?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You know, like even that sort of compatibility where it's like, hey man, I already bought BioShock on the PlayStation, on PlayStation 3. What, I have to buy it again so that this thing works? Why can't it just work from console to console? Go ahead, Brett.
You guys are also assuming that you have the console and it didn't break, or you didn't sell it or whatever. And before you say, well, don't sell it, just buy save the console. A lot of times when people sell over there, back in the day when you used to sell, your Super Nintendo or whatever, you got a premium, you got a good chunk of cash towards your next system. And it was a lot of that was the only ways that certain people who didn't have a lot of money could upgrade to the next generation. It's like a car. You go and you trade in your old system. Now, years later, they want to go back and play these. Or what about people who've never played them to begin with? I mean, at this point, video gaming has a rich storied library, and some of these games really hold up, especially the older games. If you're born after the Super Nintendo era, maybe you haven't gone back and played a lot of Super Nintendo games, and going back and finding a, God forbid, an actual Nintendo is kind of tough. It would be a lot easier and a lot cheaper for the most part if there's just a handful of games that you really want to go back and play from each console. If you're 13 and just getting into video games and you want to go back and play everything from Earthbound to BioShock, yeah, it'd be a hell of a lot easier and cheaper to have one console that just did all of that stuff and was backwards compatible, as opposed to having to go out and buy 9 different machines from a vintage store.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. What if you don't have the consoles? Dax says just keep your stuff. Sometimes that's not feasible. Sometimes you have to sell them. Sometimes they break.
Yeah, I can't say that I was. Again, Brett talks about like that. It was like, what was that when we were kids? We didn't have the money to buy a new console. So what did you have to do? You sold off your old shit.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
exactly. I didn't even think twice about it. Be like, what?
Yeah, you did.
Stuff. What?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's do it.
When I got Dreamcast. I went to Funko Land. I was like, yo, I want that Dreamcast, man.
Here's my old console and half of the games that I am willing to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
And you got yourself a shiny new console plus 2 brand new games to start off that new console. That was generally the deal.
Pretty much.
You came in with an old console and like 10 games, left the new console and 2 games.
Yeah, see, Dax, there you go. He goes, I got rid of so much of my old shit and I regret it. Yeah, I understand that, but sometimes you have to. I had to. I regret the fact that I sold all that shit, but I had to.
We just didn't think about it at the time.
No, you weren't. It's like, listen, I want that fucking 32X.
That's it.
Do I regret it now? Like, yeah. Like, do I wish that I had kept it and had money? Sure. But in reality, it wasn't a question of, do I sell this or not? It's, do I upgrade or not? So do I regret getting a PS2 when the PS2 first came out? No, not a damn little bit. I got, it could have been 2 years before I got a chance to get a PS2, or fuck, even upgrading from my Nintendo, my Super Nintendo. Like, dude, I would have missed so much shit. So no, I don't really regret upgrading. I regret the fact that I don't still have a Nintendo, but I don't regret the fact that I traded it in necessarily, because it gave me access to all those awesome Super Nintendo games that I then thoroughly enjoyed. So having the money to have all of it isn't necessarily an option for everybody, especially when you're young and you're paying for this shit yourself. I mean, I don't want to get into like back in my day, but yeah, man, back in my day, you bought all your own consoles with all your own money.
Yeah, you just you do all the things you could have for for your parents or anybody else, and you filled in the last bit with selling your old games. I remember me and Adam sold our friggin' games a bunch of our games at the same time. Remember that mail? That like there was no sorts of like video game used video game market at the time when we were selling our shit off. So you had to send it away.
Yep, it was in the back of comic books. You would see like little things.
Yeah,
like,
in the back of the Game Fan, there was a thing. It was an ad for. It's like, hey, sell your old games and get money for some new stuff.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what it was.
I got almost all my 3DO games: Syndicate, Shockwave, the Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, but the thing is, Dax, it's not about like, oh, you need those consoles day one. I didn't get a lot of systems on day one, but I had to still sell my old shit in order to afford them, because my mom was not gonna buy me a fucking new console for the exact price. I needed to sell my old shit,
Dude, nobody's saying day one.
Yeah, buying things day one. I'm sure for a lot of us, we didn't buy those things day one. In fact, when when I got a Sega Genesis, the Genesis had already been out for maybe 2 or 3 years before I actually bought the damn thing.
The Genesis I got was the one with Sonic, the one that was already discounted price. You know?
Yeah, the one that came. You got to remember that Sonic wasn't the first game that came for the Sega Genesis.
Yeah. Mine came with Altered Beast. I bought the original.
Yeah,
like I bought mine around Sonic time.
Yeah, I got the second model of Genesis. Just like I also got the second model of the Sega CD. I didn't buy those shits day one. You know? Yeah. Because again, you couldn't afford it back then.
I mean, to put this in perspective, I don't know who you're talking to in there. The trade-in that you would get was roughly like a third to half of the value towards your next one. And like I understand the way that you're doing the math, and when you look at the numbers that way, that's fine. But like, well, why wouldn't you just wait another 2 years to buy your Nintendo? Because that's how long it would have fucking taken you, or another, a year. Because yeah, I could have waited another year and then bought it and then played a couple of games with it. But over that year, keep in mind that I had my Super Nintendo. I was spending that money on accruing games, knowing that after building a library of games, that was essentially building value that would hold pretty well. And this is what's important. You don't have to be out there day one, but if you want your games to retain their value, you have to stick to a pretty strict turnaround schedule. You had to get a lot of the games when they were new and then sell them off while you still got the most money for them. If you picked up a game 2 years afterwards, the discrepancy between what you would pay in store and what you would get for your trade-in widened drastically. Things didn't drop that much money in stores because they were paying for the shelf space essentially. But sure as shit, the money that you would get for them dropped off. So there was a certain, you wanted to sell your games while they were hot commodities. So even in that sense, like there was a constant turnover. You're constantly building up this snowball to keep playing new games. What you're advocating is no less than taking a 2-year sit-down break out of that schedule just so that I would not have to sell the old system that I'm not buying games for anymore. And yeah, that'd be great 20 years down the road, but to an 8-year-old, that's not a feasible option. Put down your video games for a year or two, not buy the things your friends are playing? No way, man. And then even then, like, you're now playing a 2-year-old system. You're playing the older games. Those games you're going to buy for, $40 instead of 50 or 60 or whatever. But you're only going to get 10 to 15 bucks for them if you're lucky. If you're definitely lucky. And as it went to discs, that became even more and more. And still to this day, like if you buy a game, play it, turn around and sell it a month or two later, you can still get $30, half the value for that game. So then it just becomes an issue of, well, do I keep the games that I really like, or do I put send this back? And oh, by the way, that price difference when buying games and selling them back was the same price difference of renting a game for more than for 2 or 3 weeks, or 2 or 3 rental cycles, which back in the day was about 2 or 3 days. So basically, you had the choice to rent a game for a week and a half, and then you could buy it, but at that point you had already spent an extra $20. Or you could just buy the game, play it for as long as you wanted, actually beat it, and then sell it for in a reasonable time period, and you would eat less than $20 worth of cost and constantly have the new game. It was cheaper to buy and turn around and sell these things than it was to rent them, if you were going to rent them for more than one turn. And if you were really about beating these old games that they didn't want you to beat, they wanted you to sink time into, generally a few days after school wasn't enough time to drill through the game. And so then you're like, okay, well, so I can rent it, but at the end of the day, renting it's going to cost me more money. It's going to cost me $20 to $25. I could buy this game, play it, turn it around, and only eat $10 worth of cost. Man, that's 2 weeks worth of allowance. So like you start to go from hand to mouth on it in a sense, because you're like, okay, so if I make $5 a week doing all the chores, and it's snowy out, so I can shovel some driveways and get $5 a piece for that. That's $20 right there. Well, I can't use that to buy anything new, but I just finished this game, and then if I do that and I turn in this game, I can buy a new game, and then I'll probably play that for, if I play that for a month, well, I'll keep saving up money. I can turn in that game to buy a new game. And so when you were really penny pitching, it made sense. So yeah, it'd be great to have all these games, but you don't understand the access to gaming that being willing to sell off your trove gets you. We all went to somebody's house who never sold a video game, and they had this huge collection. It was awesome. But they usually had parents who bought them shit. They weren't people buying games themselves.
Yeah, exactly, man. All right, a couple of shouts out here. First, Black Metal for giving us a super chat, and right now, Techno Fabulous with $5 super chat, man. Appreciate
Thanks
that, brother.
a lot, guys.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
All right, so
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Okay, second question for actually no, we're done with Joey Williams. We're going out to Digital Tiger now, man. Okay, so his first question is, why do gamers? And let me finish this one because I know some of you guys are gonna try to jump in there quickly. You know. All right. Why do gamers cry?
Oh my god.
Yeah. Why do gamers cry about optional loot crates, DLC, season passes, etc.? They should keep the same energy and cry about used games where developers don't get paid. Who's more at fault, developers or cheap ass entitled gamers that want everything for little or nothing? Note, in my opinion, these optional practices exist because of used games. Whoo, a lot there, man. Brett, go ahead.
That's a bit of a shot. That's a shot above the bow, but you got to understand it's a little bit of both, because because the used game market is pretty was pretty rampant, where it's like, you have these games that people like we were just talking about, but you also got to understand is like at the same time, games are pretty damn expensive. Not everybody has that amount of money. Sometimes people want, go to these places to get the cheaper game because they don't have the money to buy a $60 game on day one or a $60 game before that. So, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword, and the loot boxes and the, not the loot boxes, but the downloadable content and the pay content, that is just to continue to keep the money flow happening and adding value to something that somebody probably only paid, maybe have paid $20 on because they bought it used at some video game store. So in other words, that's so that they can collect money after the fact. So it's like, okay, you didn't buy X game, but you did buy the downloadable content. So they still make a little bit of money off of it. Now, how about this one? What if every single game cost about $25? I mean, it just means that maybe we need to start maybe the price of games do need to drop just to get people to be more involved with it. We've learned in the past that just having a game at 99 cents can totally destroy any one of the AAA games out there. So it's kind of like, okay, well, hey, it's only $20. I'll put that down. And that's how Steam works, where it's like, okay, games are like $10. All right. Or even less. People are just willing to make those sorts of decisions, even if they didn't want to buy that game or they had only a passing interest. So it's all based off of the same idea of where you have to make the game either, more valuable to the customer, which is, after the fact paying, which is the DLC, or the fact of just kind of lowering the price so that to get everybody involved. And I definitely think that video game companies are not willing. They want to raise the price of video games because of the costs that go into making a lot of the AAA games, especially. So I would say, when you see people complaining about loot boxes and all this other stuff, number one, the one thing about loot boxes and those sorts of transactions is they're addictive. People become addicted to getting these sorts of this little bit of adrenaline or whatever, this little happy feeling that comes from getting these sorts of things, and they continue to do it and abuse it and don't even understand it. Especially when you have kids involved, where they don't even understand the value of money. Are you willing to? Do you let your own child use your credit card to go buying shit at the store? No, you fucking don't. And you shouldn't do that with with that sort of system. And I'm not saying that if you had kids, you're irresponsible, but a lot of people are like that, where they have a credit card attached to their PlayStation, their kids' PlayStation account, so they can buy whatever the hell they want. But the thing is that they're not able to make that sort of distinction. It's like, okay, this is the way I play the game. I have to pay money to play this game. So I don't understand what the complaint is. You know, we're if we're talking about something where it's a person can make a rational decision about the things that they buy, I don't see there any sort of problem with that. Now, as far as the other portion of where you're talking about the the downloadable content, yes, those things are optional. You don't need to buy Mother Base coins in Metal Gear Solid 5. You don't need to buy that Ryu Hadouken move in Monster Hunter, which is fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, by the way, quick shout out to Daniel, who also gave us a super chat.
Thank you, Mr. J.
So he's competing with Techno. He's like, man, he needs to forget that cereal. No, do not forget the cereal, damn it. Yeah, just quickly, Manny said a lot of things I wanted to. But yeah, it's a tricky thing because it's like, on the one hand, it is completely optional. But on the other hand, the way they set it up is kind of predatory, where people who maybe are a little bit weak-willed will jump into that and spend a shit ton of money on crap they don't even need. But the companies are doing that on purpose because they know there are people like that. Chris, what do they call them? Land whales or some shit like that? What do they call those people? Anyway, I'm forgetting the fuck. Wait, just whales. Land whales aren't even a thing. What the fuck is wrong with me? So basically, the thing I read, ironically enough, from that racist Mass Effect guy, producer, he said that they depend on whales, right? Basically, people that they're not abundant. They're not a lot of them. Basically, they're spending like thousands and thousands of dollars on DLC. That's the type of people they really want to go for. It's like, yeah, there's going to be like 1 million people. There's probably going to be maybe 10 whales, but those guys are putting in fucking money. Like, he was talking about this one guy who was playing Mass Effect 3 DLC, right? The MP specifically. I'm getting lost on the number, but this guy was spending like tens of thousands of dollars. Like, it was a stupid amount of money, So it's like, yeah, that's the type of customer we want. We want guys like that. We know they're not abundant, but when they come up, they give you a shit ton of money because that's all they fucking play, So it's crazy out there. So it's like, and then on the other hand, I'm like, it's a pretty fucked up predatory thing, but again, it's capitalism. You got to make your money too. I can't begrudge anyone trying to make money. So it's a really weird thing because I don't like the way they're trying to make money, but they're trying to make money.
They're obviously using a person's weakness.
Yes,
that's how friggin' gambling works.
Yeah,
they're using people's weaknesses against them because they get that little bit of little bit of endorphin from getting a little bit of money, or just that completionist issue of like, I gotta have the next thing. I'm just close. I'm so close to doing this.
Dude, I feel like you guys are focusing too much on the consequence.
Well, isn't that what we're talking about here? You know what I'm saying? Isn't it all about the consequence in the end?
No, how you get to the consequence is actually vitally important, and this is very telling in the sense that the only thing correlating these 2 points, DLC and used game sales, is that companies are trying to use DLC to bolster the money that they've lost from used game sales, and yeah. I get that, but otherwise there's not really a lot tying these 2 points together, especially when you ask. First of all, the question was, why do people get upset when there are completely optional loot crates? To that, I would say it's built into our primate nature. I don't know if you've seen the video of the one monkey who gets a honeydew and the other monkey who gets a grape. The monkey who gets the honeydew gets really fucking pissed. It's hardwired into us to react angrily when we're given a different reward for what we view as the same or an equivalent task. So, in essence, if we go out, buy this game, play this game a whole bunch, we feel we should have access to the same things that everybody else does. But that's not really the world that we live in. So we have, something that's hardwired into our brain and honestly somewhat vestigial versus the complexities of economics. And where I would go from there is I would say, do you really want this thing to be prevalent? Because at the end of this road lies every dystopian future sci-fi movie with a heavy classism basis, where you have these super rich and these super affluent just basically doing and getting whatever they want, while the rest of the people have to work, grind, or do without. That is the end goal of what free reign loot boxes would bring. And that's what a lot of people get really upset about, is the idea that a certain gaming experience is going to be put out of their reach simply because they don't have enough money. And when gamers turn on gamers, and there's nobody, when all gamers are banded together and saying we want the video game released and completed, that insulates and protects those of us who don't necessarily have a lot of money. It ensures that as a community we're all getting access to the same content. But then when certain people cross that line, cross that picket line, and they start saying, I have no problem paying a little bit extra for that, yeah, you're getting a little extra and you're having to pay a little extra, and you don't mind because you're paying a little extra, but essentially you're also limiting the options that other people are going to get, not directly but indirectly. By saying that you're okay paying that little bit of extra money means that they can get that little bit of extra money away out of you, which reduces their incentive to pander towards the average gamer. And it helps to widen that gap of, well, I want to be able to get everything versus I can't get everything. And that, again, keys off on that primate instinct of, that's not fair. And so people start kicking and screaming. So if you're asking just the question of why do people react so viscerally, I don't even think it has to do with the nuances and logistics of the bigger picture, because I don't think people go as far as that. I think they just kind of knee-jerk reaction, go, that's not fair. Or they get upset because somebody has more money than them. And that, again, goes back to that primate thing. Like, we all feel like we're giving 100%. We all feel like we go out there and we bust our ass every day. Wealth inequality just generally pisses people off. And so when you have a practice that combines a person's playtime, their hobby, and whether or not they get content mixed with, income inequality, that is a recipe. That is a powder keg, man. And of course you're going to set people off, because you're touching on a variety of really sensitive subjects that people are very defensive about.
Yeah,
so that's my answer.
Yeah. By the way, this man spent $15,000 on Mass Effect 3 DLC. I'm not talking about 1,500, 15,000, 15000. Wow. That's insane.
And see, that's the thing, though. Like, why? Let's explore that for a second. Like, why does that bother most people? Because it shouldn't. Honestly, it shouldn't bother anybody that this guy decided to use his money how he saw fit. That is between him and the video game companies. Yeah, we can get defensive. We can say that they're taking advantage of him. We can say a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it's his business. Now, when we start saying they're taking advantage of him, in my mind, what I'm hearing a lot of people say is they've found a way to pump easy money. They've found a way to fleece this guy. And even if he's okay with it, I'm not okay with it, because I don't want them focusing on guys like this and forgetting about me. That's what I hear. Because we really should have no dog in the fight of, so this guy spent 15 grand. We don't know that he's not a trust fund kid. We don't know that he didn't win the lottery 3 days ago. Does it really matter? No, because it still kind of pisses us off. And then we have to ask the critical question, why does it piss us off? Why does it bother us how somebody else spends their money? How does it affect us?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, just for the record, I'm not mad at that. I'm like, I wish I had that type of money to spend on fucking video games. I find it amazing more than anything. But Brett, going back to why do your question is, why do you care how people spend their money? I remember you saying that we should shame people into that buy pre-order games or shit like that, or am I wrong? I remember you saying something along those lines. Because
I
you
said
that
we should discourage the behavior, but no, I don't think we should shame people, because I don't think people ever react well to shame. But no, we should try and discourage the behavior, and I think that's what this all leads back to. When you hear somebody spending $15,000 on loot crates, you want to discourage it. Not necessarily. Let's all be honest here, because we're not all fucking blanket altruists. Not necessarily because you don't want to have this big company make off with all this money, or you feel like somebody's being taken advantage of, or it's the principle of the thing, or you care how this guy spends his money. No, you're worried about the marketplace changing to accommodate people like that instead of people like you. And that's where most people's beef rises.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
Yeah. Here I go. Personally, I just think it's insulting that they have the goals to do that, because not only, the whole point of these loot boxes is to essentially make money in a free-to-play game. Like, the whole model came from the free-to-play market. So if you go to any most free-to-play games, you'll see a sort of business model like what they have in all these like AAA games now. And the whole point of that is just to make money because the game is free to play because they don't charge a price point to entry. Now, the issue that people have it in $60 games is that you already paid your admission fee, but now you have to pay again just to enjoy what you have paid for. And I think people are just feeling incredibly insulted by that. I mean, like once you pay for a game, then shouldn't that allow you to get whatever you want to get in that game, and you shouldn't have to be you should have content locked away. Now, Brett is probably thinking, oh, but Brian, it just means that you just have to unlock the content. Okay, that's fine. But then what if they artificially make the content difficult in such a way that they almost force you down the path to get these loot boxes, kind of like how Need for Speed Payback works. Essentially, it's really long and it's really boring to actually unlock your card like max level, purely because of how the system works. But conveniently, there are loot boxes that you can buy, which will have the upgrades that you need to upgrade your car. So essentially, it either forces you down the path of A, do you repeat the same game, the same races like over and over and over again, just to get your car up to the max spec? And keep in mind that each unlock is only available for the car that you unlocked with. So, for example, if you unlock some parts with your Mazda, it won't go on your Subaru. You have to like do the races to get the unlocks for your Subaru. So once again, that shows that they are trying to narrow you down a path of, hey, if you want like to get like your 4 or 5 favorite cars like unlocked to max level, you have to spend a lot of time just grinding away on the same 4 or 5 races or loot boxes. And that is just insulting because it insults the gamer's time and it insults everyone's time. And generally, it makes the game less fun to play. Because I platinum Need for Speed Payback. The worst part of it by far was having to do like the same 4 or 5 races just to get my car high enough level for the next race. That was just boring. And once they included RNG in there, it meant that I didn't even get the part that I wanted, and sometimes I get duplicate parts, which was just frustrating. So it was them designing a game specifically to gear you towards the microtransaction route. And now this adversely affects the people that don't actually want to pay for microtransactions. As you just said, like, hey, you know what? Because of there, don't worry about them. Don't pay for them. Fair enough. But then your experience is now tarnished because you now have to play the game in a way that is counterproductive and also is one of the most boring ways to play it in order to get the stuff that you want, purely because the microtransactions have just forced their way through the door and have made the whole party unfun for like 80%, 70% of all people. And
It
I
forces
think
the
that's
market to
why
pander
people are.
towards the
Oh, sorry?
people paying. As I said, forces the market to pander towards the minority of people playing, as opposed to the majority, and erodes your foothold about the thing that you enjoy, your hobby. Right? Like it actively
They're looking for the
changes
whales. Like I said, they're looking for the whales.
Yeah, it changes the carrot and it changes the carrot on the stick basically and leaves you in the dust. So, as Brian just illustrates, like of course Brian would get upset if somebody tried to do that. They're actively attacking and eroding the things that make his hobby fun. And if somebody came and you're just playing chess in the park and they started pissing all over your chessboard, you get pretty pissed too.
Maybe.
And then like this is also on top
or,
of
or how about this one? It's like chess is really hard. You just pay a little bit of money and you can beat the other guy.
Oh shit, that's right.
and like this is also like well some people also see this as an additional fee on top of everything else because there's already the base game which is expensive as it is. $6 is not cheap. Let's just call it what it is. And then on top of that, there's tons of other crap like there's pre-order bonuses, there's season passes, there's DLC, and then on top of that, there's microtransactions, and this is all on top of fully priced games that come from publishers that at this point in time they have made enough money that they don't need it. But they are doing it purely because they know that they can just get more cash out of it. So it's nothing but pure greed. Like there is no, oh, we're making up for it in the used marketplace. Like no, it's all just pure greed at this point in time. Like there is no reason for those transactions to exist. I mean, you can take Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, which for the most part is mostly the same game, and Shadow of Mordor, no transactions, perfectly fine game, perfectly great game. Where Shadow of War, just slice them in there. Why? Because it's a big name that people are excited for, and we can make more money from it. It's nothing but pure greed, and that was on top of the season pass and the pre-order bonuses and whatnot. So I think people are just getting annoyed to the point where like it's it's another additional cost on top of everything else, and they're just sick and tired of it. They're
And
just
it's
sick and tired of being beat around the head. Like, hey, give us money for the game. Give us more money for the game. And then after a year, we'll stop supporting the game, and that's it. Go and fuck yourself, or go buy this other new game instead.
the shitty thing about all of it is that you can literally see the techniques that they're using. It's like I always call it the rope a dope because it's literally they're doing it right in front of you. You could see exactly what they're doing, but you still fall. They still want to catch people inside of that sort of thing. They artificially. Well, like as Brett said, they'll Brian said they officially artificially adjust the games to push their push you toward paying for this transaction, a transaction that you don't exactly, especially with new loot boxes, you don't exactly know what you're paying for. At least when you're talking about, I don't know, like buying skins and stuff like that. You say, yes, I'm going to be buying this really awesome looking, suit of armor. Doesn't do anything special, but it just looks awesome. So at least you know what you're getting, as opposed to where it's like, here, have this. It's like it's like, here, have this box. This box that may or may not have the thing that you want in it. It's I mean, I think we've said it before. It's also kind of very similar to like the collectible card market. Where it's like, okay, you have your cards out there, and then you have your holograms. Holograms are not that the odds of you getting a hologram are low, and some of these other cards are low. But at least for some of them, at least for certain things, you do know the odds, which is also with the problem with the loot box situation, where it's like you don't know the odds. You don't know what odds you will have of getting any of the things that you need. How do we even know that the systems are built to know, to look at your patterns, the patterns that you do, in your actual gaming, and will maybe not even give you that thing at all.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, man. Let's move on to the next question here. Okay, which single player game would you like to see a multiplayer for? It could either be a PvE or a PvP, and it could be any game in history.
I'm going to say I don't want any multiplayer version of any game. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that one too. Like a single player game is like, leave it alone, man. Leave it alone.
Leave it alone. I mean, when they said God of War is going to have multiplayer, I literally laughed.
Yeah, and that multiplayer was shit too.
I feel like, I mean, here's the thing. Like, okay, we're talking about multiplayer. I don't mind cooperative multiplayer, but like squeezing in something along the lines of like, hey, look, you can play team battle mode with Kratos. I'm like, why?
Yeah, that's dumb. So yeah, that's my.
If you had like a 2-character game, like like we're talking about, I talk about Gears of War, and I talk about the Dead Space game. I think those, or when Resident Evil had it.
I got one. Let me play Uncharted. Cool. Let me play Uncharted games with other people. The full story. That'd be cool. There you go.
Yeah, like what if I jump in and I'm playing Zoe, right?
Yeah. Okay. There you go. That's my answer then. Make the normal Uncharted story. Have drop in drop out like Gears of War. That'd be cool. And there's already characters there.
Yeah. What if you're playing Sully?
Yeah. Exactly. All right. That's my answer. Chris.
I was gonna say, yeah, if you can enhance the single player experience, not only playing a co-op, but what if you were to jump in and play a boss, right? What if the boss you are playing is not just AI? What if it's somebody who's controlling it?
Oh shit!
Make things interesting, So like Demon Souls had something like that, but it was only one character that an invader would come in as the boss of this area, and there would be a person. So it's actually times if I was the guy, I'd be like, message the dude and be like, I'll go easy on you if you give me the stone because I'm trying to craft something.
Te.
He's like, all right. I'd be like, all right, put the controller down, have at it. And, so you'd have interesting interactions like that. I think if you could have both enemies and cooperative multiplayer, but it is in the single player thing.
Cool. All right, Carlos. Mr. Romero.
I don't know. I think I'm more with you guys. I don't really care about like giving an online mode to any of these games. Because normally, like any game that I like that's a single player game, I wouldn't want to change. So I don't know. None, I guess. I'm with you guys.
That's an answer. Ryan.
I say this every single time. Mass Effect. I think that Mass Effect would be a lot more enjoyable if you do it like with friends. I mean, it'd pretty much just be Star Trek at that point in time. So come on, just get done.
I just
I like that. No, I was yawning. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I like that one because it's like you constantly have people with you in those games. So why not? Just like Uncharted, like you always have people with you. Why the fuck not? Brett.
I'd like to see the next Elder Scrolls game let you go multiplayer because you kind of already have a companion with you anyway. Why not let you pick a friend?
There you go.
Let you pick a friend who's not an idiot computer controlled character.
Right? Somebody can actually pathfind on their own.
Yeah, Last of Us would be another one. It's like, yo, can somebody control Ellie, please? Shit.
Well, they literally made her, just the little fix they did on that game was like they literally made her immortal and invisible to all the monsters, so she could run around like an idiot right into all the dumb monsters, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, that's cool. You're cool. One of us."
Well, you know why Ellie could run with them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That game's like 6 years old, right? Can I spoil that? Anyway, Adam, what about you, man?
I don't know.
Damn, and you're the guy I figured would have like 50 answers to this one. You know?
No, I don't know. It's a tricky one. I don't know.
Table tennis. That's always the answer.
But I'm still waiting for that one to come back. I mean, like that's the thing. It's
Write Rockstar letter. Say Rockstar.
Like at least I just don't get it because I was thinking about that the other day because even in Grand Theft Auto 5 they didn't add it. They added tennis, but it's not table tennis. Why are they just not using it? I don't know.
I don't know. All right. And let's move on here. Where the hell are we? Okay, we got 2 more questions. All right, from the Life and Times podcast, or also Wiz. He's not Willie Robinson anymore, so I appreciate that. So his first question is, what Marvel Cinematic Universe character or franchise would make a good video game?
We got asked this before, didn't we?
Kind of, I guess, but he specifically said Marvel Cinematic Universe, so it's not Marvel Comics.
Cinematic Universe. Does that include the Netflix ones? I don't know. No,
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, you can have a Doctor Strange game. You know,
Doctor Strange. I mean, we played with him in Marvel Alliance. Remember, he was.
Yeah, he'll be the Benedict Cumberbatch one. You know,
I'm Benedict Cumberbatch. The Sherlock Strange.
That would be DLC. He just switches off and it's Sherlock.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go with Manny because we kind of already answered this before. So Marvel Cinematic.
I mean, I'll be willing to answer it again. It's not a big deal.
I don't know. To me, I'm like why would I want to play a Marvel Cinematic Universe version of the character when I could play what I would prefer to play the comic book version of that character?
I agree. I feel like the Marvel Cinematic Universe versions of these characters are like the crash course in these characters. Like it's like, hey, Doctor Strange, condensed. Black Panther condensed. I mean, granted, they did make a lot of sense of some of the Black Panther-y stuff and kind of combining certain things.
Yeah.
But I would prefer. I feel like because you have the extended the extended world of a video game, why limit yourself to the crash course of a superhero Marvel character? You know what I mean?
Or if you
Spider-Man's like backstory is so much more interesting than movie Spider-Man's backstory.
Exactly. Yeah, why limit yourself?
Or what if you did a bunch of different MCU heroes in one game?
Oh, you mean like an
Marvel
Avengers?
Ultimate Alliance?
An Avengers game?
Yeah, I was about to say
Yeah,
that.
but
Ultimate Alliance.
good, like really good.
Are you saying Marvel Ultimate Alliance wasn't good?
It was.
Marvel Ultimate
It
Alliance
was
The first one was
game.
better than the second one.
It was.
First one was better.
You know,
First one was better. Yeah, and
maybe,
the X-Men
maybe I should
Legend.
say a full-fledged AAA title.
Those were AAA titles.
Yeah,
though.
man. They
thought that was a
Activision,
demo.
Activision too. You know.
Yeah, man,
they even remastered and they brought that back.
Yeah.
I have trouble believing any isometric game is
Even
AAA.
Diablo.
It was like Diablo.
Even
That's what I'm saying.
Come
that
on,
was
Ray.
Marvel's answer to Diablo.
Yeah, the Diablo's AAA, man. So you can't say those games aren't AAA.
Oh no, okay, but let me put it to you this way: would maybe a Marvel MCU multiplayer game that plays like you would imagine a Marvel MCU single player game to be, like not just a top down action button smasher?
I'm lost. I'm lost. Very interesting. I learned something about you. You don't think isometric games are AAA. Very interesting.
Well, it's not that they're not AAA. It's just that they're party games. They don't have a lot of depth to them. If you're telling me like
Diablo doesn't have depth.
Yo, Brett.
Oh, that's
Baldur's
fighting words.
Gate doesn't have any depth.
Yeah, Brett.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance was not Baldur's Gate.
No, but but Baldur's Gate is an isometric game. You're moving the goalposts right now, man.
Currently, the Baldur's Gate is a Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why.
I like when
I
you're like
didn't used to feel that
currently.
way. I didn't used to feel that way. I
Shadowrunner.
feel that way now.
So wait, but Baldur's Gate was a AAA game back in the day too, man.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like you asked.
totally.
Okay, look, Shadowrun, the first Shadowrun game, really enjoyed. I didn't feel like that one was cheap. The new one that got released on Steam that is still an isometric game, this day and age, feel like that's a little cheap.
All right, that's just a personal thing, I guess. You know.
You can't see a quality difference between Marvel Ultimate Alliance and the new Spider-Man game that's coming out. You really can't see a difference.
There is a difference, but those games are still AAA games. They
Yeah.
you know, they still cost a shit ton of money to license. This is the fact that it's a licensed game already makes it AAA because they said they spend a shit ton of money on them.
That's where they spend most of their money.
Yeah, but they're AAA games, dude. And that's weird. You know.
Okay, let's not focus on the AAA and let's focus more on like
Because we got
fully
you. That's
fledged.
why.
fully fledged. No, well, no. This argument will take forever to resolve.
Yeah, and
What
we're
would-
going in
what would you
circles. What was the original question? I forget the question. now.
What MCU characters
Yeah,
do
man,
we want to see?
Fuck the MCU.
And you guys were saying that the MCU characters were too shallow to hold a video game on their own, and I said, what if you had multiple ones?
Yeah, I mean, that could work, sure. Oh, yeah, that's how we got derailed, because when we brought up Ultimate Alliance, you were like, no. Sure, why not? If you have to do an MCU game, I guess make an Avengers game, and you can have that.
I don't know. I mean,
you
I
know?
just feel like
Yeah, do the comics, man. Fuck the
Do
MCU.
the comics. Like, why are we even messing with the MCU
Seriously,
ones?
because the audience on the movies is 10 times what the
Yes,
comic
the
is.
audience of the movies is 10 times. But you know what? The Spider-Man that they're doing in this new game isn't the MCU version of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He may have the stupid eye things, but he's not wearing the same costume. He doesn't even have the same origin. So they kind of made up their own. So what are we doing there? You know, why didn't they just, if we're going by that sort of idea, why didn't they just make it movie Spider-Man? Maybe because if it was movie Spider-Man, nobody would fucking buy it because every single movie tie-in game is thought of as a piece of shit.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they generally are.
Generally, yeah. Yeah, and I just do the comic book characters, man. Fuck the MCU shit. That's what
I mean, you know,
say.
as much as I love the movie versions of these characters, I do feel like it's
they're the crash course versions, man. Let's just be honest.
It's baby's first introduction to comic book characters.
Yeah, you want the real shit, you got to read the comics, man.
Exactly. So you want to know where it all came from, and you know the nuances. I feel like you want to go deeper. You can stay in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and not interact with any of the things. But I would say the best thing to do, because there's so much history behind these characters that you could use to build a game on. I would definitely go with more of the comic side than the MCU version.
Yeah, like yo,
But
man, get to the deep side of the pool, man.
So let me ask you: if you went for the comic version, would you just retread heavily treaded ground, or would you leave 9/10 of the audience confused?
Why would they be confused? They know who all these characters are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know who Spider-Man is. You know who the Punisher is, especially since if you were into one of those characters that are you know who Deadpool is from the film. So
Yeah, but you don't know who Domino is.
that's why you can introduce her in the game.
Yep. There you go.
But that's what I'm saying. That would be the retreading heavily tread stuff. Like you'd have to go back and go to the beginning of most characters' arcs. So you'd be okay with that?
But
No, I mean,
but look at the way Ultimate Alliance did. They didn't give you every character. They just threw every Avenger at you and let you pick them, and that's it. You know?
Yeah, I mean the Lego games don't go into every single superhero that they they throw in there.
And they throw have a million characters in that.
But that's the thing, because they can do that because they have a million characters. They don't have to focus too much on any one of them. That's why I had said that I think that you should put multiple MCU characters in one, because that way you don't have to focus too much. I don't think any of the MCU characters are really developed enough to hold a fully fledged game on their own.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, if you have to make an MCU movie or movie tie-in game, do it at least on the Avengers, because at least you have multiple characters. You know, so I'm with you on that one. You know, all right, let's move on here, man. Where the hell are we? Okay. What, Brett? Chill with that noise, man. We're actually getting some complaints from the fans over there.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. All right. Okay. What current gen games would you give a magic do-over, improving what was wrong with them, righting all the wrongs that came with production, better writers, etc.? Very involved question.
That's a pretty cool, interesting question.
Yeah. Current gen games. Current gen.
Current gen games.
I know one. We already said it. We said it a million times. The Order 1886.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of things that they could have done that would have been so cool. I feel like, they did all this lore stuff, they did all this background story, lore, whatever. And a lot of it is not like even really touched upon in the game. I would love to be able to within the game explore those things. Like, why are we like one of those things is like you have those really nice looking collectibles that just shows up. There's nothing connected to them. It's just something you can pick up. Why isn't there anything deeper than that? You pick up a newspaper and it says you can barely read it.
Oh, the game is shallow, Manny.
Well, no, here's the thing. The game is not shallow. The game actually did put a lot of research into trying to create this kind of alternate history. And they talk about it all the damn time. And there's all these different things that you can go on the website and read about all this other crazy stuff about the order itself. But within the actual game, none of that is there. All of it's just very surfacey, and it would be nice to kind of really take that and then pull it in a little bit more and, give you a little bit more to do with it. And, I want to say this, Galahad is a fucking post because he's a cool looking character, but he has nothing going on personality wise. He has this big revelation throughout the game, but you kind of don't feel that sort of revelation. He should, not to spoil the order, but he goes from being like the company man, and then realizing that the company is fucking twisted as shit.
And then he becomes Batman.
Then he becomes essentially Batman. I didn't feel that. I didn't feel that sort of betrayal that he felt that the game was suggesting that he should feel. You know what I mean? Despite us being with him throughout the whole game. He's kind of like, I gotta do this, gotta do it. Oh no, you're wrong. It's like, I
got another game. I'm gonna throw Prey in there. Fix those fucking shooting mechanics. Horrible. The combat in the game is just terrible. I love the world they were setting up. I love the story, the alternate universe stuff. I just could not stand that combat. That combat was trash. So I would definitely change that too.
Well, while you're at it, just change the name, because that's not Prey.
Yeah, change it to something else. Yeah, that is also true. Change that. There's probably other games this generation that bug me, but I'm gonna go with that.
Sky.
No Man's Sky.
Mass Effect.
Andromeda for real, son.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of them actually.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go do a do-over, but I would say I would give a certain person more time. When it comes to Metal Gear Solid 5, I feel like, and I'm sure a lot of fans feel the same way, that the game at some point felt a bit cut short. And I would feel like if we could give him the final bit of time that he needed to fulfill whatever that he was trying to do with that game, I feel like that would be needed. I don't have any problems with the revelations or anything that happens within the game, but at the same time, a lot of this stuff comes out of nowhere, which I feel like there could have been some sort of connecting tissue. You know? It's a very the real ending to Metal Gear Solid 5 is a very Deus Ex Machina sort of ending.
Yeah, all right. Anybody else games this generation you would fix, overhaul, whatever?
I would have fixed Mass Effect 3, man.
Yeah.
You mean
Andromeda?
Andromeda? You mean?
Andromeda.
No, 3.
Mass Effect 3.
3 is not a current gen game, dude.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
you're
right.
Yeah, current gen. That's why we said Andromeda.
Yeah.
Andromeda. I would go with. I would also go with Destiny.
Anything published by EA last year?
Oh shit!
Everything. Need for
No,
Speed.
Titanfall 2 is awesome.
Oh, okay. Titanfall was like the exception.
Fix Titanfall, then the first Titanfall. You know, give it an actual story.
That's a whole overhaul.
Yeah, that's what he wants. He wants a complete overhaul.
But then we already did, because that was Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 was what we wanted from Titanfall 1.
Yo, Illustrated, dude, you're crazy. He goes, Drake of the 99 Dragons. That's not even this gen. Nothing can stop me now.
What about Life of a Tiger?
Oh, Life of Black Tiger, right? The greatest PS4 exclusive of all times. All right, if anybody else don't have any more answers, we'll go to the last question from Dio. Snuck it in at the last minute, man. Manny, and I want you to answer this one first. All right.
What?
Is Metal Gear Survive Dead on Arrival top 10 NPDs or not? Is there a future for this beloved franchise? It's a two-part question. So, Manny, will we see Metal Gear Survive in was it March? No, February NPDs.
I don't think so. I think you know, I do think, yes, there are people out there that do not like the Metal Gear series for its story and, you know, the actual aspects of that most of the series was built on. There are those people that exist. There are people who like the Metal Gear Online aspect of Metal Gear Online better than the actual game. These people do exist, but I do not think that there is enough of those people to keep this alive, to keep Survive, you know, to exist. I do think there might be just enough people to keep the game, keep the series, at least this iteration of the game, alive with DLC. I think there were, you know, I don't think that Konami put a shitload of.
Wait, did you hear about the characters? They're like $10 each.
Oh,
no,
well, that
save files.
The save files. I'll address that. I'll address that right now. That is not anything new, by the way. If you've ever played at Metal Gear Online, that is exactly what you had to do to get an additional save character. It is a stupid thing then. It is a stupid thing now. Also, mind you, the other microtransactions within Metal Gear Survive are the same exact microtransactions that exist in Metal Gear Solid 5. They tried to kind of hide away. Remember when they first revealed Metal Gear Solid 5's mother base aspect and they showed the menus and all of a sudden you saw mother base coins and some numbering thing and somebody figured out, oh, hey, there's microtransactions? And then Konami and Kojima had to do some damage control on that. It's the same shit. So this is the same sort of stuff too, where it's like, you know, in Metal Gear Survive, you have to use you can use mother base coins or whatever Survive coins to speed up the aspect of developing items. So if you have a headband that you really, really want to get in the game, that you have the materials for, instead of it taking, I don't know, 4 to 2 hours, you can chop that down into 1 minute. That's the same way they both work. But for Survive, I don't think it'll survive.
the game or the franchise? I
don't know anything about the franchise, at least for the game. I think this one, I don't think it's exactly dead on arrival, but I do think that I think they knew that it wasn't going to be as popular as they did it. That's why you didn't see a shitload of promotion all over the damn place. That game literally came out and everyone go, oh, hey, by the way, that Metal Gear game just came out. I mean, you know, back in the past, you say, oh, hey, a Metal Gear game comes out, freaking the world is exploding. You see fucking 10 like ads all over the goddamn place. This is the most decreased Metal Gear, like ad campaign you've ever seen ever. So I'm gonna say this. I think for Metal Gear Survive, it will survive only in the fashion that it will exist on the fact of the people that continue enjoy the control aspects and gameplay aspects of it and the online aspects of it. But as far as the series goes, I don't know. I think that for Metal Gear, what will happen is what happens to a lot of the Konami franchises, that they will either let somebody else develop it, or it'll just kind of sit in the dark, like a lot of their famous franchises. Where's Contra? Where's Castlevania? Where's all of these amazing games that everybody loves from their childhood? Is because all those fucking people are gone. Every single one of them. And whoever's left there, they will probably look over every single bit, try to direct every single bit of it, to where it just seems like it's just a pale comparison of what it formerly was. There will not be a Kojima level, at least the way I see it. There will not be a Kojima level Metal Gear game ever, which is sad to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. I said, to me, after he left, the franchise is effectively dead. And Metal Gear Survive is proof of that. The fucking game is a zombie, literally a zombie. The
game is essentially a committee based. It seems like it's a committee based sort of game. It's like somebody said, "Hey, zombie games are popular. Put that. Survival games are popular. Put this." It's all those different things that you put out there.
Yeah, it's the most generic thing possible. A co-op zombie shooter.
Like, and I'm not to spoil anything for people who are going to
don't spoil that part. Even though we did spoil it yesterday.
I spoiled it on.
Don't do it here. Don't do it here. Yeah, don't do it here. Yeah.
But not to spoil anything, but there is nothing. There is very little connection between this game and the actual Metal Gear franchise. You play through that game, you'll figure it. You'll see what it is, because there's not a lot there. No characters that you recognize. Maybe a couple. It's like all the things that all the iconic parts of Metal Gear have been sucked into the world of Survive, but none of the substance.
Do you think those characters will be DLC?
Huh?
Do you think those characters will be DLC?
I mean, they'll be. I think iconic things will be DLC, but I don't think that like they'll give you a Solid Snake outfit, or they'll have a DLC of a something else. But I don't think it's going to be any more than that. I don't think you're going to ever have fucking Snake or any of those characters in there, as and if they do put them in there, it's just that they're in there, and that's it. That they just pop up in there, and there's no story aspects devoted to them. I think the only story aspect you're really going to get out of Survive is the main storyline, and they do leave a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end, maybe. But yeah, it's kind of its own thing, and it almost didn't even need to be called Metal Gear at all.
You know why they called it that, though.
Oh no, they I know exactly why they did it. It's a cash grab. It's them totally using the name to sell this game, and because they obviously didn't have the sort of budget to create a whole totally new Metal Gear game. Essentially, what is Survive? It's essentially all the assets of Metal Gear Solid 5 sucked into a void and reconfigured around.
They should have called the game Fox Engine.
They could have just called it Fox Engine. Yeah, they could have just called it Fox Engine Assets, because that's what it is. The one new thing, the few new things that are in there are the aspects of the way the zombies works. Like you can decapitate them and cut them apart and shit like that. And there is some new monsters that they don't show on any of the stuff. But yeah, it's sad, but I don't feel bad. If that sounds weird to you, I feel like we got our ending. Kojima got to, in his own way, he got to say, hey, this is it. This is the end. I mean, if you think about it, if you played Metal Gear Solid 4, that's the end. That's the end of the Metal Gear series right there. He did it years ago. All these other games, from Peace Walker, which I enjoyed, and Metal Gear Solid 5, they're kind of just like additions, the additions to stuff we've already pretty much knew. So I'm perfectly satisfied if there is no other Metal Gear game ever after this.
Yeah.
point.
I mean, let's just be honest. There will be more Metal Gear games. They're just not.
Oh no,
be
there
on that
will be.
level.
They're not gonna.
Well, they're not gonna be any good.
They're not gonna be.
They're
good,
not gonna.
Yeah.
Look at this.
On the level of
It's
a Kojima,
embarrassment.
on the level of
they're gonna lack subsistence.
they're lacks the subsistence. I mean, on the level. I mean, here's the thing. Like I always say, the game Ghost Babel is a good example of a non-Kojima based game. But I do not think in the current state of Konami they will ever let someone have that sort of control over any sort of franchise under their moniker.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone would need to have to buy Metal Gear or any one of those other games for anybody to kind of touch those things and really give it a nice spin. And I think that's what's I think even Kojima even saw the writing on the wall while he was still at Konami. When he said, before he was like, "Hey, this is my last Metal Gear game," because he knew what it was, what Konami was turning into. So, that's the in the long form answer. I don't think we're going to see a Metal Gear game in the vein that all of us really enjoyed. I think we're going to just see kind of more of these kind of Metal Gear in name sort of games, which is disappointing.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, fortunately, I've already moved on. So
yeah, Metal Gear's over. Metal Gear's over. Stop getting your hopes up. Is done.
Hey, listen,
it's
we
done.
can. Here's the thing. We've had we have all. I'm sure Konami's going to continue to do re-releases of Metal Gear, and we can still live within the past of those really awesome games. But I do not, at least in this point in time, I don't think that there will be any more that will really be as challenging, story wise and gameplay wise as the previous games were. And that's about it. I stare at the stars.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that. That was perfect. That's why I went straight to you. The Metal Gear guy.
I'm the Metal Gear guy.
Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in? Metal Gear. Will Metal Gear survive? Yeah,
I think Manny just summed everything
pretty
up.
Pretty much, man. Okay, so we want to thank all you guys for joining us tonight. All the heads in the chat. Our numbers are a little bit going. I'm not gonna say they're growing. They're going back to normal, which is good. Maybe now that YouTube pulled that bullshit, maybe now things will normalize again. We'll see about that. So once again, for you guys who are sticking around, who haven't participated yet, we would encourage you, if you're interested, to check out the contest we have going on. We're giving away a free collector's edition of Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, and it's really easy to enter. First, you subscribe to us here on YouTube, subscribe to us over on, follow us, subscribe is a different word, over on Twitch. Follow us on Twitch, follow us on Twitter, and answer either here on YouTube or over on Twitter, and tell us what your favorite Final Fantasy game is. You don't need to go into specifics or anything, so let us know. I made a video.
If you want to, it's optional.
Yeah, there's a video up on the channel right now. Check it out. All the details are there. And yes, because we always get asked this question. I did forget to say in the video, but I did put in the description. Yes, it is international. Anybody from around the world can enter. Even if you're from Uganda, we will send you this shit. So. Yeah, man, good luck with that. We're going to be running this up until Thursday night. That's when we're going to announce the winner. Randomly generated, randomly picked, so it's fair to everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Cascade, like a quick question.
Yes.
So if you're planning on shipping this to Uganda, the one thing that I want to know is, do you know the way?
Yes, I set that up and you hit it out. Perfect. I'm glad somebody took it. Yes, I do know the way. Awesome. Mighty Nerd, what's up? He goes, he likes chatting with us. We like chatting with you too, man.
There you go.
Awesome. All right, man. So thank you for watching and listening. Leave us your questions in the comment section of this episode here on YouTube or over on the Coalition. We'll answer them on next week's show. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Follow us on Twitch, Mixer, Twitter, and Facebook at Throwdown Show. Links are located in the description below. Once again, our show is Tony Polanco. Times joined by Emilio Lopez.
Metal Gear is over, but we do have Death Stranding.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Carlos Romero.
Laters.
Brett Murdoch.
It's been real, party people.
Adam Vale.
Have a good week, people.
And Brian Manjoma.
Life lesson. If you love something, let it go. If it does not come back to visit, hunt it down and kill it.
Man. Oh, man. All right. And with that, we'll see you on Thursday, man. Later.
Latest.
Laters.
Deuces.